All right, welcome to the Matt and Jerry Daily Bespoke podcast for the 13th of May, and we're coming to you not live, pre-recorded from Roundhead Studios because we're talking to Neil Finn about the new Crowded House album.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that my cue?
Yeah, that's your cue.
That was good. Yeah, I'm here now.
How are you this morning?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I was just saying I was going to make more of an effort because it's everything's televised now. It's not just, it's nothing like radio. You could turn up looking like a streel, as my mother would have said on radio, and no one would care.
What's a streel?
When you're a bit rough around the edges, my mum said, "Oh, you look like a streel." Have you not heard that before?
No, but what is an actual streel?
I have no idea. It's an Irish term. She had many terms for. Maybe 20 or 30 terms for idiots that came from the village that she was from, and most Irish people don't even know the ones that I like, Canabla, Puthick, Egypt. Well, Egypt's a common one, everyone knows that one, but strapheads, they're all for kids. Different levels of cute. So, cute but naughty is like a Puthick.
Right.
A straphead's getting a little bit carried away with yourself, and if you're sitting on a seat looking like a bit sort of vague and you'd be and gormless, should be say you're sitting you look like a stook, sitting there like a stook.
I have never heard any of these words.
Well, she had a whole host of them, so maybe I'll get a chance to use them during this.
Were you Irish from both sides? Because Finn,
you'd think so, but my dad was. Family was from Lydd in Kent.
Right.
And he was born in New Zealand.
There's a few sayings out of Kent, I imagine, as well.
Yeah, just sort of move a few letters around. Yeah, Bob's your uncle. But there's much culture has come from Ireland, and in our case, just a lot of terms for idiots. Yeah.
Was the musical part for you coming through your mum and your dad?
Well, my dad loved music, but he was virtually tone deaf in that he couldn't really sing a tune. So you'd sit next to him in church and he'd sing the hymns in it, but it would all be on one note. It had beautiful tone, really rich, fulsome tone. This is my commandment I give you. Like with a really good vibrato and everything, but he just wouldn't change note.
But when you'd come in with a harmony.
Well, not with him, but I used to harmonise with my mum, but doing the dishes, and she had quite a lovely voice, and she was quite musical and had a good ear. But she'd play the piano, and in fact, that's really, in a way, I think how she won my dad's heart. That he loved the fact she could play all the tunes of the day, and she was a good dancer. But she'd play the piano though, and she'd have a habit of playing it all in one key, one chord. So in a way, they were a beautiful combination because he couldn't really sing a tune and she couldn't change chord.
What do you mean?
What chord was it?
Change chord. What do you mean?
Was it a C?
She would, for instance, she learned "I Got You" when that became a hit, but she would go, "Can you play straight?
Because there's a Steinway piano right here.
I just hold that mic over there." Yeah, she would go. Well, I don't know why sometimes I get frightened. She only just reduce it to a really minimal amount.
Wow.
And it'd always have a swing beat. Well, I don't know why sometimes I get frightened. It was pretty. I wasn't giving a good representation of her sweet tone there,
but it works.
Yeah, well, it is curious that they were born to be together, really. Neither of them had much regard for chords or melody. Well, yeah.
That's quite hot, though. I imagine that a female who, if you are not a musician and then you watch someone tinkle the ivories, there's something very sexy about someone playing the piano. It shows a great command or something.
And any instrument on a woman is sexy. Like, I've impregnated a bass player twice.
Yeah.
While she was playing bass.
Not while she was playing bass, but I met her because she was playing bass. There is something really attractive about musicianship.
My wife plays bass, and she looks fantastic playing bass.
Yeah.
And just the way that it goes with the movement of the hips.
Yeah.
The world moves on a woman's hips, and so does a bass guitar.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the sexiest instrument though for a woman to play?
What about the cello's pretty sexy, I guess, arguably.
Yeah.
The way it's played.
I think they're both very, very sexy. Yeah. And piano too, obviously Jeremy finds quite attractive.
There's something, especially if people have a flourish.
Oh no!
People that are so amazing at piano that they can also dance with their hands.
I've got this theory about AI that we're going to go back to being more and more human and appreciating like people playing music, because everything will be able to be replicated, but someone actually playing the piano will be even more valuable, because it can actually experience music. So it'd be ironically bring back the human part.
I hope so.
Wouldn't it be good if it went back to Tin Pan Alley and the music being released on sheet music, and then you bring it home and mum and dad perform it to the family?
The sheet music should be the new, like cassettes are back. They should go back another couple of decades, the sheet music.
You should release your album first. I mean, it's probably too late now because it's coming out on the 31st of May, but just go, it's coming out on sheet music, and we expect you to play it to your family at home on the family piano.
I think I've got a vague suspicion somebody's done that. Some smart-ass indie guy has done a sheet music release. But I can't remember who it is now.
It would have to be, because you couldn't just put it through AI and get it to create the sheet music. It'd have to be done by hand.
Yeah, well, to be worthy, it would.
To be worthy,
yeah, but the AI thing is quite weird. I've been to a couple of restaurants recently where I swear it was AI music they were playing, because it sort of resembled music, but it wasn't really music. It had a few of the characteristics of a song.
Yeah,
but it didn't quite make it, and nobody cared. That was the scary thing. It put me off a little bit. I found it slightly disturbing, but everyone looked around, and everyone's just still eating, and it's just doing the job. It's like, it's creating the vibe.
Is it that they're honing it down more and more, that they've worked out more and more exactly what a human ear likes to hear in terms of a pop song? Is that really what's going on? And because we've heard so much of it now, there's only so far music can kind of go. I just feel like genres of music, what's been a new genre of music in the last 5 to 10 years?
Well, the only thing I could point to is that genres don't matter as much as they used to, which is kind of good. Like, a lot of young people are listening to all genres of music. When we grew up, we were pretty tribal about the kind of music you liked. You couldn't possibly be into jazz if you were into rock music, or you couldn't be into, but now it seems like it's all, it's all good to go. Anyone, whatever you want, which is kind of a healthy development. But yeah, I think it's some of the modern music is easier to AI engineer up, because it's sort of built from predictable building blocks. And sometimes the way they curate it is still really inventive and creative. But you can analyze that music a lot more than you can like a folk tune or not a folk tune. That would be easy to analyze too. But like what you traditionally think of band music, it'd be quite hard for AI to copy, I think.
Yeah. I was thinking about listening to the album yesterday, and because it's very melodic, musically adventurous and melodic. But do you find, like, if you're writing a song or working with the band, that you kind of leads through to the AI thing, where you have to solve the tune, if you know what I mean? Like, it kind of, where it's got to go, there's places it can't go and there's places it can go.
Oh, it's a mystery. It still is, and I'm a little bit more obsessive than some of the people I know in terms of reworking. I'll throw a song up in the air 3 or 4 times and dismantle it and then rebuild it again, just because I suspect there's something more to be had. It's not an easy process that I've done, but I kind of trust it now. So I just it's endurance. You just stay with it.
Hold on. So you start with an idea, you then create a song, or you create something, and then you break it back down again? How does
often,
the process work?
Arrangement-wise especially, I'll get an idea. Well, I just make a series of demos, and I've done it since I got my 4-track cassette recorder when they first came out, is to create a sort of an atmosphere and play something until something hits your ear as having some extra resonance or feeling, and then I'll cut that out and make a new demo with that as the basis of it, and then try and expand on it a little bit. It won't be a song, it'll just be sort of a floating idea for a while, and then something about that, suddenly when I've added a guitar to this piano track that I did, it'll have a lovely little moment where it becomes something else. I'll take that and then make that the new demo, and often that takes 3 or 4 attempts, and then we'll record it with the band, and then I'll dismantle it all again.
Really?
Oh, sometimes, yeah. You ask them, it's like, you suspect that you're losing concentration on it a minute and a half in, so you go, well, there's something wrong, there's something inherently wrong with that spot there, so what is it? And I enjoy the thrill of that chase, and there's a lot of people who would find that annoying and wouldn't want to put up with it, and they do write songs in a very different manner, but yeah.
Because is a song for you ever finished? Have you ever finished it, or is it always just a thing that's continuing to evolve?
Well, in a sense, yeah, no, it is finished on because the great thing about walking into rehearsal after you've made an album, as opposed to when you first bring in a song to the band, is that the arrangement's really bolted together. So when you start to play it, it feels real nice because guitar player's worked out his part, the bass player knows what he's doing, and then on stage, 3 months into a tour, the song's just absolutely taking off. And there'd be an argument for making the record then, but you've already done it. So you just find new things about them, and the band gets tighter and better. And it's going to be a great record to play live, this one, I'm absolutely certain.
That's the thing though, isn't it? Because if you go to see a band, like for example, if you go and see Bob Dylan play, that's so different from what you know the song. And you think, did he find that's how he wanted to sing Hard Rain originally, but he's recorded it in a different way, or he's forgotten it, or he doesn't care,
Yeah, it matters little to him to repeat the record, which is pretty annoying.
And it's annoying when I would see him, I was like, it was...
Yeah, he's obviously one of the greatest songwriters of all time, but he's quite annoying at times as well.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of his voice either, but that's just by the by. People's voices are very much your personal relationship with music, to me anyway, is very much to do with people's voices. And there's artists that I greatly admire out there, but something about their voice doesn't get me, so I never listen to them. So
Did you see that documentary, The Greatest Night in Pop, about the recording of the We Are the World song?
Oh, I've heard it's pretty good.
There's a great moment and when Bob Dylan's too nervous to sing, because he's with real, Michael Jackson, these incredible singers, Lionel Richie, and he's a bit nervous to sing, and it's taking ages. They clear everything out, and then Stevie Wonder sits down with him and impersonates Bob Dylan and tells him
the line that he should be singing.
We're making, and he sings to Bob Dylan in that way, and then Bob Dylan goes, "Thank you so much," and gives him a hug, because it's Stevie Wonder's enabled him or given him license to sing as Bob Dylan.
Impersonation
so
of Bob
Dylan can then do an impersonation of Bob Dylan for the record, which is what they want.
Yeah, that's a superb moment, isn't it? Really, I'm gonna have to watch it now. You've described it quite well.
Yeah, but you can see him the whole time he's sitting there while everyone else is singing, and you're going along through Dionne Warwick and these amazing singers who are proper singers, and Dylan's sitting there the whole time, and he's kind of rocking backwards and forwards, just staring in from the distance. You can't tell whether it's
he's just thinking, how did I get myself into this?
And he's thinking, how am I going to sing my line? Because I've got to do a solo here at some stage. But Stevie Wonder's impersonations of other people apparently are legendary. Apparently he's that's the whole thing. He's an amazing mimic.
He's an impressionist.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm going to watch it now. You've really drawn me in, you fellas.
But it makes me wonder who's Stevie Wonder impersonating? Because I always imagine that you don't really have a voice, do you? Like, what is your true voice? You must have impersonated someone when you first started singing. You must have had someone else in your head or in your mind.
But you're probably trying to imitate the people that you first grow to love. Like I suppose it was the Beatles and Neil Young and Elton John and all those people when I was about 12 or 13 I was getting into. But, and then you find your own voice at some point. I don't really like the way I used to sing when I was a young man. When I listen to those records now, I just was really pushing it too hard. I'm much happier with the way my voice is now. And I've got better range now for some reason, I don't know. But yeah, it is, voices do develop. Stevie, though, as great as Stevie was, he did, to some degree, he wasn't the first to do the thing called the melisma. You know about the melismas? They're like when Mariah Carey was the arch exponent of the melisma. Oh yeah, right. Yes. All that kind of moving. You don't stick to the melody. You just find every way of elaborating on it. But I sort of think Stevie was to blame for that a little bit because he did it so well, and it spawned a whole generation of melisma singers. And now there's a new one. What's it called? Where they mangle vowels. There's a name for it as well. I read about it. Where you get really weird pronunciations. I should be able to give you an example, but let me ponder that. I'm just thinking about the name of it. It's been given a name.
What was the other? Melisma.
Melisma.
I've never heard of it.
So the people will melisma all over the national anthem.
They do.
The Star Spangled Banner gets melisma.
Melisma
all over
to
the
death.
place. All over the place. You're like,
it's
can we just
competitive.
set the tune at some point?
Yeah,
it's competitive.
I've heard you calling it crummering before.
Yeah.
Because Annie Crummer tends to do it, particularly in that Netherworld Dancing Toys and For Today.
Crummering.
For Today.
Yeah.
That's everywhere.
She's very good at melismas. There are people I don't mean
She brought melisming to New Zealand.
I don't mean to really cast any shade on it because it's good, but it is odd, and I think Stevie was partially responsible.
Do you in your album like this? You're talking about influences. I could hear a bit of Simon and Garfunkel in the second song on your album, and I was wondering, when you did it, do you go, that harmony sounds, like there's a bit of Garfunkel in that harmony?
Oh, there's the odd time where you kind of you check yourself and you really like what you've just done on a demo for me usually.
Yeah.
But I go, it really reminds me of Simon and Garfunkel. And then you have to question whether you're going to go through with it. Yeah,
Right.
and whether it's too much or people will, judge
Just
you
get
for
a
it.
sprinkle of Garfunkel
That's
and there's
okay,
fine.
isn't it?
Well, they might mention it on a podcast, a Radio Hauraki podcast, and then all of a sudden I'm sprung,
Well, what happens if
Yeah.
you've accidentally heard something? I've often thought about this. If you're writing songs and you think, you create a great hook, and you're like, that is a great hook, and you're like, I'm really pleased with this hook, and then you think, has this hook been done before somewhere? You must think that sometimes. You must think, does this already exist?
You got to just ring up Ed Sheeran and make sure it's okay with him. He's the arbiter now of. There's the odd time where you think you're close. I've never been busted for a hook or anything, and to some extent, there's very little that's original, completely original. So, but Eddie Rayner, who was in Split Ends, was an absolute master of subverting the process of songwriting in rehearsal. When you'd bring a song for the first time, he'd just play along quite happily, work out some parts, and then as he was walking out of the room, he'd whistle the song that reminded him of.
Oh, wow.
So
Involuntarily, or
yeah,
is it
no, he'd
passive
just do
aggressive?
it to give you shit.
All right.
But
wow.
he'd wait. He was a master of waiting, like for the right moment. He'd all be sitting there feeling quite good about the song. Sounding pretty good, that song now, isn't it? And he'd just be whistling the song that you'd ripped off. Yeah.
Speaking of Eddie, his organ on "I Got You," the fact that it's spooky, and you're talking, was that on purpose?
Well,
Was
yeah,
it
you'd have to
were
ask
singing
him if
about
it was.
being frightened, and then you've got a spooky organ vibe?
Yeah, it probably was.
Was that on purpose?
He probably was thinking of it in those terms, but he was always quite good at. There was another song, One Step Ahead, which he wrote a really spooky keyboard part in that as well.
Yeah, that is spooky.
Beautiful keyboards in that one, and actually to the extent that Chris O'Connor, who you probably know, Chris the drummer, plays with Phoenix Foundation. We played that together for some occasion a few years ago, and he said, when I was a kid, that I used to really scared of that song. Every time it came on, I got really scared, which I thought was pretty good. That's a pretty good recommendation, I reckon.
There's some pretty spooky sounds on the new record. Who brings the spooky? Who brings the spooky to
Mitchell's got he's got the dark arts as a keyboard player. Liam, Liam to some extent with his effects sometimes can sound quite spooky and confronting, and we're attracted to a bit of mystery and wonder. Sometimes it spills into spooky.
Yeah.
Speaking of playing with your sons, how does that go when you're playing live and stuff like that? Are you keeping an eye on them to make sure that they're doing exactly what they're meant to be doing? What's the family dynamic that cuts across the new Crowded House?
It's remarkably little that I'm able to observe anyway in rehearsal or on stage of any kind of weird family dynamic, like dad imposing his will on his sons. There's not much of that. I don't ask them to vacuum out the rehearsal room.
I was going to say, because what happens if they haven't done the dishes or something beforehand, and they're meant to have done the dishes, and you're like, you're not in the right place on your star chart right now.
Yeah, the naughty chair.
Yeah, do you take that across into rehearsal?
The naughty chair. We do keep one actually on our stairwell. You'll notice it as you leave. Actually, there is a naughty chair up there. Actually, there's two up there now. I don't know why. Liam, there was a famous incident in the family where I was, they're very nice, compassionate, warm-hearted human beings, and I'm proud of them. And we did our best, and I'll give Sharon a lot of credit for the way they turned out. But there was the one time I asked Liam to wash the car. It was something I did when I was a kid. I had to wash the car, and I thought, wake up some days and you go, oh no, I've forgotten to impose that order on this family. And Liam, you need to wash the car. And he looked at me like he was 13, he was into Nirvana and he had long hair, and he just was looking at me like, what are you talking about? Wash the car? But he did. He went out with the hose and I got him the brush and said, you can't wash the car. I had to do it. Go on. And I took the vacuum cleaner out to him and said, you make sure you vacuum the the inside, and then I woke up, I went to bed, I woke up the next morning and the vacuum cleaner was still outside, and it had been raining, so I was just furious. And I went into his room and woke him up and said, "You left the vacuum cleaner out. Go and get it." And yeah, he always brings that up.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good relationship if you have to go back to 13 to find an example.
I mean, there's been other moments of stress between us, but no family is immune to weirdness. But
it's interesting because you have, my parents always used to make me practice the piano. And then, and they used to be the worst thing in the world. I wish I had, because then I'd be able to play the piano now, but I bucked against it so much. But now you have band practices with the kids. So you're making the kids practice, but it's not quite the same thing, is it?
It doesn't feel like that at all anymore. They've done enough. They realise that you got to practice. You'll be shit otherwise.
Also, practicing in a band's fun.
Yeah, generally, although rehearsing is quite tiring. I think it's one of the most tiring things, because I'm really concentrating on little points of arrangement that you've got to remember, and 4 or 5 hours is enough for a rehearsal, I think.
Do you get into arguments about what keys old songs are in?
No, because the evidence is always there. You got tapes and stuff. It was interesting when we started this band lineup. Liam and Elroy and Mitchell all were very keen to play songs like the record. Instead of what bands usually happens is that as time goes on, you get less and less bothered about the details or nuances of the arrangement. So, the fills change and the little, you think, it's a little bit like what it used to be, and just approximate it. But they learnt really in a detailed fashion, and it was actually delightful at rehearsal to hear the song with the fill exactly banging in like Paul used to do it. And I think there's some pleasure in the audience for that as well.
Well, because you know the songs that well. You know the fills, and
that's right,
every guitar line, and you sing them as well as you sing the lyrics.
Yeah, we started to sort of, in our own minds, downplay the importance of that stuff, and now but you don't want it to be like a carbon copy either, but it's got live energy, and we jam a bit, and there's a lot of trust in the band now, so we've learnt how to jam and go off script a lot.
I imagine you're still the boss, though, when it comes to how things are going to go, seeing as you were there from the start, you were writing the songs, and ultimately you'd have to crack the whip. Do you think at some stage, though, there's always a challenge to Dad? I know there was in my situation with my dad at some point physically. Do you think there'll ever be a challenge?
Around a set list argument or something?
The next thing you know, there's a bit of a set 2. And a bit of a, at some stage, Dad's okay at this stage. He's still at an age where we're going to listen to him, but at some point, do you think that might change?
I don't think I could beat them if it came down to
Elroy's a pretty strapping sort of situation.
Oh, okay.
Liam's pretty nuggety too. Like we did have,
definitely couldn't beat both of them.
We did do a video which was I don't even really shouldn't be talking about because it's not currently on YouTube. I don't think, called "Wrestle with Dad." Have you? You haven't encountered it. Was deeply embarrassing in a way because we were wearing underpants on a Greek island and wrestling in an old and we couldn't find proper wrestling outfits, so we had to resort to stretchy underpants. And Liam was younger than me, so he looked a bit better. And then we were running around these stones there, and vines and amongst vines and olive groves and stuff, and I did get a little bit too enthusiastic and ended up hurting Liam a little bit. He was pretending, and I was supposed to be pretending, but there must have been some primitive thing that was...
Oranga Tamariki weren't called in, were they?
Fighting for my life, no. I don't know, thered be a Greek equivalent.
An interesting call out to the Finn household. Look, we've got a problem here.
My dad's been a bit aggressive in some comedy wrestling.
It was pretty funny watching the rushes. The video itself is now quite embarrassing, but the rushes were fantastic. We even wrestled underwater with an underwater camera. It was pretty good.
We were talking about practice before, and I imagine that you've obviously been playing your instruments for so long, you can play so many instruments. You wouldn't practice anymore. So do you just fiddle around? I mean, you live over the top of a recording studio, so I guess it helps. You've got a Steinway piano that's sitting there, just meters away.
In a sense, I practice because I'm playing a lot. I play every day, and sometimes purely with the piano, I'll just sit there and play for an hour. I record everything I do because there's always a chance a little idea will spring up. But and doing things like the best way to practice guitar is to be asked to put a guitar solo on something, which I was the other day. particularly on somebody else's track, because you're going, and you just feel it's terrible for a while. But I spent an hour, getting around and getting out, and finally found something that was pretty good. But it took that long, and it just occurred to me, I've just done the best practice for tour that I could have possibly done, because I wouldn't bother normally, but yeah. I'll be shredding
what's
when we get to
the longest
stage.
you've not picked up a guitar in your life, you reckon?
Oh, a few months, maybe 2 or 3 months, probably.
2 or 3 months?
Well, I've been doing something else, or we've been away on tour. Actually, having said that, if I'm on tour, I'm picking up a guitar completely. But for fun, there's, periods go by when I sort of don't really feel like trying to write anything, or it's good to have a break, because my brain gets a bit too fried from it anyway. I can't sleep when I'm writing. And
oh, really?
Oh, there's just things going, little dilemmas going around in my head I've got to solve at 3 a.m, going, how to get from one part to another.
Okay. But if you go on a holiday, do you like, if you go away for a month or something, to the Bahamas or something, do you take a guitar with you to the Bahamas?
Yeah, I'd always probably.
I'm just assuming
I think I'd always
Bahamas.
take a guitar. I always have a guitar.
Oh,
on me.
really?
Yeah, pretty much. And I've got a little Pelican case which has got a computer, an interface, digital audio interface, and a microphone and a lead. So I can always, and I'm always working on a track of some sort.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of working on it, I was thinking of that when I was listening to the album, because it's all so, feels perfect when you listen to it. But, you recorded it in a couple of places, didn't you?
Lots of places.
Lots of places.
We started in Byron Bay.
Yeah.
When we were just set up to rehearse for a tour, but it was a lovely old studio, and we actually ended up recording a few things without expecting to, and then we went to LA and did some recording there. We were working between tours, so we'd arrive a week early and go and do some more recording, and then we came back here. The last part of it was with the full band was here for about 10 days, and then we all split up and just do individual work,
right,
and send files to each other. Everyone gets to indulge their musical fantasies.
So a bit different in the early days, where the record company will give you a budget, and you've got got this many weeks, and you're all together for this time, get it done.
There's something to be said for that. Like I think I've said to the guys, because it's quite long-winded and time-consuming to be sending files to each other, and also a little bit lonely at times, because you're kind of working on something and you're struggling with it, and you wish your mates were there to give you a pat on the back and say everything's going to be all right. Yeah. But so I said, if we do another record, and I'm pretty sure we will, that we should set aside 6 weeks and do it in the old-fashioned way. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because do you start in that situation? Do you actually start with an idea of an album? Like I imagine back in the day when you all got together, you would have said, right, this is my idea for the album.
Well, not a theme, not a central theme, overriding theme. Some people do, but you just have a bunch of songs, and they get worked up at rehearsal. In the old-fashioned way, you'd work them up at rehearsal and to a point where they're pretty much ready to go, and then you go in the studio and you take as many takes as it takes to get the magic one. But everyone's reasonably sure what they want. You can make a few adjustments, but you're waiting to hear it come to life, and then you've got a great engineer, and then you walk back in the control room and he plays it to you really loud, and you go, shit, we sound good. And that's a really lovely feeling.
I watched this documentary on the song Comfortably Numb the other day, and when they wanted to put the orchestration on it, they had to put the tapes on a ship and ship them basically to New York, and then the orchestration was added, and then it came back.
Why did they have to ship them?
I don't know why they had to ship them. They didn't put them on a plane. I don't know why.
Cheaper?
I don't know, but I thought it was a long way. Or maybe it was one of those things where people say it.
It's mythology. Maybe there was big X-ray machines at the airport and they didn't want to ruin
maybe it was
the tapes.
something like that.
There was a thing for a while where you didn't want to. You had to ask them if you. I was carrying tapes on occasions, and those primitive X-ray machines used to wipe stuff. So you had to ask them to do a manual search.
So that's an interesting form of collaboration. So you send it off, and then they put this big orchestration added to it, which is on that song particularly makes the song. And then all that time later, it comes back, and you go, what? And you play the tapes.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of an echo of that. Is just when you do work with tape, you have that lovely moment where you have to wind the tape back and you can think and reflect on what you've just played.
Yeah, right.
Whereas, now it's like instant Pro Tools. You just go, okay, am I do it again? Bang, you're in it. You got no time to think about it. And you're also watching a screen all day, watching waveforms. Sometimes you even judge the take you've done by the waveforms.
Right. Yeah. So there's a graphical analysis element to it. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes unattractive waveforms make you think you haven't played well.
It would be interesting to write a song purely around a message in the waveform.
Yeah, and occasionally there's real anomalies. Like there was last night, Stephen, who's the engineer that works here, he's working on a young artist from Australia, and he did a screenshot of a waveform that looked like Batman and showed me. He was they were blown away by it. There was a particular sound in her voice. It was a particular shrillness in the voice for a couple of words, and it came out looking like Batman, repeated Batman, like a
wow. So like
with the little ears, yeah.
Yeah,
that was quite interesting.
Hey, I know, Neil, that you're a big fan of produce.
I love produce.
As a bit of a gift, and I know you're a particular fan of this particular produce.
Oh,
so as a gift,
oh my God.
Here are some jazz apples.
Did you pick them yourself?
I picked them from my jazz apple tree.
Oh, you got a jazz apple tree?
No.
Oh, that looks good, doesn't it?
I picked them from a supermarket.
Eddie Rainey used to have a thing. He'd throw them up in the air, and it was the way they sounded when they landed in your hand that he went, no good.
Well, it needs to have a certain weight to it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because
otherwise it's sort of hollow and
that's got a lovely
waxy
look.
Yeah, there's a couple in there that are particularly good. I went to the back of the bunch to try and get the coldest ones.
Yeah,
because I find those ones have been in the cool store and they haven't ripened quite as much, which is what you want.
You're a man after my own heart.
So there we go. I know you'll enjoy that because you like a jazz apple, which to me is it's musical.
I think they're pinnacle.
It's as good as it gets.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to be really working hard. I'm leaving on Friday. I'm going to have to really work hard on those apples.
I think you can get those maybe
like
around the crew.
Yeah, actually, there's a few people here who like a jazz apple.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they're best cut with a knife as well. Into segments.
I always cut them into pieces. Yeah, I traditionally, as I do with Golden Queen peaches, when I first get a new shipment in like this, I'll deliver them to the family on little plates and in small segments. Everyone will make sure everyone's got a bit.
What a treat!
Yeah, my dad used to have a piece of apple every night before he went to bed.
Really?
So I've started doing that as well. You become your father, don't you? And that's the trouble with life.
You do.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for talking to us.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Congratulations on the new album.
It's really, it was great. I listened to it yesterday. I listened to it three times. It was great. And I thought, well, I've been listening to you my whole life, and for this, it's up there with the best stuff you've ever done. I was thinking, it's fantastic.
That's nice to hear. Thank you for your kind words.
And new and exciting and new places and all that kind of stuff.
It's with the guys in the band, with Liam and Elroy, they've got all these great ideas, and it feels like it's got a future. It's going to move somewhere. It's got potential.
Yeah.
We're up and comers again. What's the thing on your wrist there?
That's from the IV.
It's the IV.
IV, yeah.
He's fresh from the IV.
Yeah. I'm not far off the IV.
No.
Yeah, actually, the guy that put it in had a shocker and spent like 5 minutes. That was the worst part. The most painful bit was that.
Yeah, I know. That can be bad, isn't it? Sometimes they stick it in your wrist. Have you seen that? Like, that's a weird place.
No.
I found how you deal with it. You got to stare at it, and you can't try and hide from it. You got to stare at it and experience it, and it's better.
Well, I knew that, and I knew that you told me that because Matt had a fear of needles, and so he was like, you've got to stare it in the eye, and so and the guy goes, just a little scratch. They say that, just a little scratch. This is probably the worst bit, just a little scratch, and then he went scratch, and I felt a little scratch, and I was looking down, and he's like,
it's betrayal.
This one doesn't seem to be able to let me get in. Hold on, sorry about this. And he kept sort of shoving it. The thing was going sideways, and he goes, this normally doesn't happen. Sorry about this. It took ages.
That's no good at all. Yeah, but it's a lovely feeling when you drift off. Like only for a second, really, but you get that feeling. But
the last time I was going under general, I had this thought. The last thought I had was, what if you feel everything, but all the general does is wipe out your memory of it? So it paralyzes you and wipes out your memory.
So under some kind of hypnosis, you might recall the pain.
Yeah, so you might actually just be in like completely paralyzed, screaming in pain, but your memory centers aren't on it, and that's what we think anesthetic is. So when you wake up, you're like, oh, where am I?
Yeah.
So you are actually experiencing the horror of it. That was the last thing I thought.
That's a lovely thought.
But the thing about that is, I always think how much. Like if you get really drunk and you pass out, if someone started sawing at your bone, you'd definitely wake up at that point.
Oh,
how much anaesthetic do they have to give you to the point where they start sawing at your bone and doing hardware with drills and stuff that you don't wake up?
And singing at the top of their voices.
It must be a lot. You know, that is a lot.
I just have really weird visions of what they might do while you're out. You know, like
it's very vulnerable.
I hope they're having a good time, but it's a really weird juxtaposition, isn't it, to think that they're having a laugh. And
if I was operating on you because of your status, I would do something weird to you.
Do you think?
I would, yeah. Like
you know what people are doing.
You know people are doing.
That's disturbing. What do you think?
They're like grabbing you downstairs.
They're having a look around and they're like, I've always wondered what. Oh, yep.
They're filming a cavity somewhere. They're like, they might be doing that anyway.
Hey now, into your willy. Doing all kinds of things.
I've seen my vocal cords. Have you ever seen your vocal cords on video? Like a guy, ear, nose and throat in Dublin, I was having trouble with my voice and he went, I'll stick a camera down up through your nose, and then they park just outside your vocal cords, and they are the most amazing thing you've ever seen. They look a little bit like the alien when it's growing, you know, the small alien in Alien, the film.
Yeah.
But they're like butterfly wings as well. And he said, okay, sing now, and I could watch them, and they flap like that. And as you get higher, the different parts of them come into, you can watch them expressing their pitch. It's quite an amazing,
Wow.
I've got a video of it, which, I probably would only enjoy watching myself. I don't think anybody else would like to see that. Sharon was disturbed when she saw it.
That's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, they're amazing things, vocal cords.
The control that you can get on them.
I'd highly recommend it, actually. They should offer it at Peter Jackson's Weta World tour, shouldn't they? And it'd be good.
Hey, thanks very much for this.
All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Nice to talk to you guys.
What a great
Have a good
space.
day. I'll go and have an apple.
I'm just looking over where my challenging third record, Shape of Grunge to Come, was mixed in there.
Was it?
Yeah.
Who mixed it?
Justin Pilbrow. Yeah,
of course.
He mixed it. And and it's still quite a few copies under my bed. So if anyone wants one,
we've got a few of those boxes around here actually of our records. There's always a few that are left over. T-shirts.
T-shirts. Are
bad T-shirt designs. They're always,
especially. In my experience, ones for females don't seem to sell in anything I do.
Yeah, there's always one left at the end of a tour you've got 100 of. Yeah. You give them away as gifts for, to schools.
Matt Heath and Jeremy Wells on Radio Hauraki. Or give their podcast a hoot on iHeartRadio.